with our IT progress. Although NetPro has been working with us, we do not have a complete audit of what our equipment entails over the fort, the RV park, the golf section, and all of our internet for the motel. So, but this is the immediate need that we have to have, is we have no backup for every bit of information we have right now. So if we have issues, then we're in trouble. The contract with CSI, which is a computer system that troubleshooting, everybody calls for the backup, it was canceled in January. So therefore, we've been running without any kind of backup for over 10 months. Fortunately, we haven't had any major issues, but we have to resolve this as soon as possible. So this is the immediate need, is to get the server for the backup. And by the end of December, we'll have a complete audit of every IT equipment we have and the services we need to provide. It was done 8 or 9 years ago, I think was when the original installation was done. So therefore, we really have no idea exactly what's here. So once we get, but we do know we don't have any backup, so we need to do that. And then we'll have to do a contract to have somebody to support us in the future.
This is just for the hardware and software, right?
And, you know, installing it so we can back up. So,
Okay, is installation including, oh yeah,
Yes.
here it is, later. Okay, we got it, okay.
So, with our black system, the member service, which we had, David gave, where there used to be a server in the closet back there,
still is.
that we would back up every day, and the accounting would put it on a drive.
That server is no longer existing.
Do we still work with David Gable?
We have not had a return call from him for the last, what, 2 weeks? So we don't know. We've only been paying him $2,000 a year for support, so I don't know the existing situation with him. We've been trying to get hold of him for ever since I've been working here.
So the NetPro equipment, it's going to be able to back up our
This will
system,
back up our accounting and everything.
and our member services, all the account.
But that black system, don't know more about that, except for the fact it's a DOS system from the 70s. So we'll have to figure out what we can do there.
Well, several years ago, we were told that we would have to have someone manually input all of the information from DOS into QuickBooks or some other.
What we did in member service.
Yeah.
You need it for the accounting, like what we
Right,
did for member
so,
service.
right, so, excuse me, so we would have to have someone, possibly at that point, we considered hiring someone on a part-time basis to
We will
physically, manually
We will need
input.
to decide exactly what software
Yes.
we need to use that will handle our needs.
Yes.
There's a lot out there.
I would think maybe, like, also, maybe Allison, because at the bank, they have different branches. That might be some kind of system that maybe someone can help us with, since, the RV park is considered a branch.
I'm
pro
going to HOAs.
Yep.
And going to people that know the business.
shop. Most HOAs don't have,
I had 5 restaurants in my HOA. I had 18 swimming pools. I had numerous things outside, banquet facilities, the whole bit. So, yeah, most HOAs do not, but most resort HOAs do. So I'll reach out to those.
I know you know more about HOA stuff like that than I do, and
Well, we're a complicated
yes,
thing, there's no doubt about that. But as long as you have the revenue centers that you can put in there, which is about the only other thing you have, then any HOA software can go there, and we'll see what's out there.
Yeah, we could throw a rock and find software to run what we need to run. The problem is getting all that DOS nonsense transferred into a modern.
right, because this goes back to 1971, I mean, like the histories and stuff.
So the way I'm reading this, we're getting 6 terabytes annually of cloud storage,
Right.
which will hold every bit of data for Fort Clark Springs for many, many decades, I would imagine.
Anything we need.
Yeah, and then as far as hardware, in addition to that, we get a processor with, it says 2 or 3 6-terabyte hard drives.
Right.
So for $3,000, I hope we get the one with 3.
Yeah, the actual price is $3,299.95, $275.76 in tax, and $42.60 in shipping for $3,618.31. Bill, any comment?
Nope, do it. Get it done, as they
Okay.
say.
Okay, members, 3 comments. Okay, do we have a motion to approve this proposal from NetPro One to immediately correct our lack of backup systems?
I move to accept this backup system proposal as proposed.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? It's unanimous, unless absent. Director. Okay, I wasn't sure whether to put this next item as a discussion or an action item, because this is, if you recall from last month, the discussion we had about the declaration list over the common property assessment, which was intended and has been for decades, to pay the common property taxes assessed by King County. However, the language was very vague, and so we used a special assessment to do what we needed to do. Bill and I met because we were the only ones available at the time, and have proposed some changes to the declaration to clarify that particular section, and also to clarify one small section in the restricted fund. This is a first draft only, which is why I didn't know whether to put it as a discussion or an action item. Any changes we make in the declaration must be proposed to the membership, since we have an election coming up this spring. Any changes we agree to make to the declaration will be on ballot. Okay. This is again a first draft. I'm going to just read what we have, short. Restricted fund, there's a change in the main paragraph. The board may levy assessments for the purpose of establishing a restricted fund to defray costs of creating subdivisions, provisions for off-site improvements, capital improvements, reserves for replacement and maintenance, historic preservation, and the maintenance of any debt service. The change, including taxes, public or private, since we already pay the mud taxes.
But isn't that where isn't the mud tax supposed to be coming out of the restricted?
That's why I said,
But I mean, it says including taxes, should
Public.
it just be mud taxes?
No.
no,
So
because it's
I
any debt
think we
service.
can get rid of that, including taxes altogether, because any debt service, public or private, covers that. Our problem was with the next assessment
Right.
paragraph.
But I added the including taxes just to clarify that debt service not only means debts we owe to vendors or contractors, but
I'm just
Taxes,
worried that people are gonna want us to
public or
drain our
private.
restricted fund.
public or private. Okay. The only taxes we really owe are community property taxes, state taxes. So, if you want to put including municipal utility district in there, like I said, this is, let's turn, we'll call this a discussion, and so we can, but I do want to put it out on the table. Common property assessment, changes recommended to the main paragraph. Again, this is first draft. Board may levy assessments for the purpose of timely payment of common property taxes, rates, and expenses, including to or for Fort Clark Municipal Utility District of Kinney County, Texas, the Fort Clark Springs Association, and its members are liable to the Fort Clark Municipal Utility District, that's new, old, if such taxes are levied by said district to pay the principal of and interest on any bonds, notes, and/or other obligations of said district issued for the purpose of providing water and sewer facilities to serve the association. This is a change. Number 1, new recommended assessments levied to pay said district taxes, that's new, shall be made under this section only in the event the restricted fund does not contain adequate funds to timely pay said taxes and there are no other funds available to the board for such purpose. So that just clarified that we would pay out of common property assessment only if there weren't funds in the restricted fund. The new section incomplete. Assessments levied to pay association common property taxes billed by the Keeney County Appraisal District shall be paid by the association and its members. Members for the purpose of a common property assessment are lot owners, charters, and family recreation pass holders. And then the last paragraph, the third paragraph, there would be no change. So this is first draft. I'd like the board to review it. We need to get together and make any changes, finalize anything. You all have copies of the existing declaration. And I guess the only thing I need from the board here is an agreement that we're going to review this, have it ready in time for the ballot, and maybe finalized by next meeting.
Well,
Dustin?
it's a discussion, so I'm a big fan of the principle of keep it simple, stupid.
Yes.
This thing was far too wordy before we ever started with it. So there are many different types of assessments that we can assess in the declarations. The restricted fund in the declaration is actually its own assessment. So technically, we could mail out another set of assessments that say restricted fund assessment. We don't do that. We choose to pull a few bucks out of the regular assessments and plug them into the restricted fund. The whole purpose of the restricted fund is for capital improvements and debt service. That's why it was created. And the restricted fund,
And the $1 from the
yeah,
historic.
has been here forever.
Mm-hmm.
The common property assessment is not really recent, but it was not an original assessment.
No, it's been here for a long time,
Right.
decades.
So my whole issue with it is the restricted fund, which is an original assessment, is for the purpose of paying debt. Any debt service, public or private. That includes taxes. So then somebody came by later and said, well, we need a common property tax assessment for whatever reason, because they didn't want to do it in a restricted fund. If we want to keep it simple, why, as long as we're changing things, why have a common property assessment?
Correct.
Why not have a regular assessment and a restricted fund assessment and just pay the taxes out of it like it was originally intended to do?
Well, that's good comments. We'll get together and like I said, this is the first draft. Brianna?
Well, the only thing is, I mean, I want to talk to Jerry and stuff, because, I mean, would that be an accounting nightmare, or is it just another subcategory? You know, since the $4 is already getting, well, it's actually $3, and $1 goes historical, but then whenever we, I guess whenever we bill it, it would still be the 61 account, but it'd be called the restricted fund, and in that case,
We still have to
we
change
can
the
we can
language.
change the formula, because right now, there's 2,700 acres up the Fort House. 1,600 acres is supposed to be considered common property. So you we've been splitting the 60% minus the
Right.
mud. So we could actually make that even go up, I mean, for the whole bill and just divide it up. I don't.
Right,
I
so
mean,
under the declarations, we can assess a regular assessment for conducting the business of the association. We can assess a restricted fund assessment for the purposes of capital improvements and debt service. Now we can assess a common property assessment and a special assessment. Special assessments, those should be pretty rare in my book. Those are kind of emergency type deals, but the restricted fund, that's our tax assessment. That's what it was written for. So we have this extra one in here, and as long as we're discussing making changes, why not just simplify the whole, distill it back to what it's supposed to be, and, if we bump that up a couple of bucks a month, put it in there, that saves everybody the tax assessment at the end of the year, and
Now, the
it's
restricted
covered.
fund is only for, FRMs right now aren't contributing to the restricted fund because they're not able to lot up. So there would be, we need to dig deeper and find out, because they should have to carry some, help us out with
Sure.
that
Right,
assessment.
well, that was the purpose of the common property assessment, because all of our members use the common property. Not all of our members are property owners and pay a property owner-based
That's-
assessments. But we would still need to change the language in the declaration to allow for a restricted fund common property assessment. So we're still gonna have to be working on language.
Well, no, what he's saying
As
is,
it stands, there's no authority in the declaration to change the way the restricted fund is funded. So, we're still gonna need to work on the language.
This tells you how the restricted fund is funded.
so what he was saying is basically we would get rid of the common property assessment. but
Right,
then
I
we have to
understand
go
that,
through
but
the under there, and we need to make sure to include the FRM, so we just need to
Right.
go through the
Right,
whole.
because restricted, what that is for is things that everybody uses.
I know,
Even
but
FRMs.
right now, FRMs are not paying into the restricted fund.
Right, but that's an accounting issue, not
Well,
an assessing issue.
According to the state, assessments have to be in your declaration, so we need to make sure that the language gives us the right to assess, and we're gonna have to change language. We may take out the definition of a common property assessment, but then we have to put language in so that FRMs realize that their assessments include common property. So,
So right now, if we were to change this ASAP, there's already gonna be a $4 increase to an FRM. But if we're talking about trying to figure out, like, the $35 and prorate it for the whole year, because that means our other assessment will be going up, so say it's $1,
Right.
well, maybe $2. So then the FRM, with the middle of COVID and everything, that means they may be going up $6.
But that,
okay, but this is something we're.
I agree, well, we are having a discussion on this,
Okay.
so,
No, I mean as far as dollar amounts.
right, but that goes back to my point as well. FRM entitles them to come in and use all of our public
Our
property, all of
trash,
it.
and they throw their trash
Right,
there.
all they can't do is live in a house somewhere.
And we're paying we're paying an
Right,
extra
so
assessment for that.
Everything that this restricted fund was established to pay for, they're utilizing. They're utilizing all the public spaces, our trash trucks running to pick up their trash from everywhere, all the trash cans at the pool and all the other buildings. So they should be paying into it. Why they're not paying into it is beyond me. It's something that I have wanted to address since February, and this seems like a reasonable time to get it done.
Bill?
I agree that, we have to make some changes. And, you and I looked at this and we came up with some suggestions. As you say, it was just rough draft, but, it should take an input of all of us to. And I think that Alan should have input in this too, because, it involves money and it eventually budget. So he may have some suggestions as to how we can, implement this for what we're talking about.
Now, are you talking about including it with our regular assessment? Or are you talking about doing it like the $35 once a year restricted? Because then we're gonna get in trouble with it probably the CPI.
Right, and that's, will have to be part of the discussion. But my point is, this restricted fund, while we call it a fund, it's actually an assessment, its own assessment in the declarations, but we're not using it that way. So we have created other assessments so that we don't have to use it that way. So we're gonna have to pick a lane here. We've complicated things a bit more than they should be, and now it's gonna take a little bit of thinking, a little bit of brain pain to get it distilled back down to simple.
Alan?
I'll take it under advisement. and discuss it.
Well, I'm kind of thinking that we can make it even easier and basically do away with the common property and call this, I don't know, it'll be like, because we still, the 61 account is already set up in our system.
If we run according to the budget, and that's why the budget was prepared, there is a line item in there that says property tax. If our budget is done accordingly, we will have $125,000 at the end of the year in that account to pay our property tax. The only reason we've been doing special assessments is because of the deficit that was run in the budget. That's the only thing, and it's being caught up. Your restricted fund is for, and the way it was originally set up was actually to have money there to add additional units to the fort and the infrastructure for the fort, because that was the major plan. So it's for the infrastructure for the port. The taxing, and of course the mud is an infrastructure assessment, or not, that was an expense for the roads and everything else. So you're paying for the infrastructure out of the restricted fund there. Everything else, if we follow our budget and we do accordingly, we will have the money to pay it without doing the 6 additional assessments. So that's my perception of what the way things should be running. We've gone through 1 month and we're okay, but every time I turn around, there's an additional surprise. So we will keep going accordingly and adjusting. But at the end of the month, the money should be there to pay without doing it. My goal is to not have special assessments. It's to run off the budget.
Yes.
The budget is there to pay the taxes. It's just a matter of we have unforeseen expenses that, God knows, we have a few surprises. That's what that gets paid with that special assessment. And I think this year we're heading in the right direction.
How would you like to do this? Would you like to have a workshop type thing where members can sit in on discussion and go from there, or what?
I'm fine with that. I mean, we'll have to distance it all up, but yeah, I think if we're gonna change this, it needs to be a serious discussion.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah, did you guys go for a workshop?
That's fine with me.
Pretty quick, because
Well, ballots won't go out till
February.
February, so we've got time to put this together. Okay. Do I have a motion to table this as an action item and set a workshop for the purposes of revising the declaration?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Members, comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
I just have a question. Okay. The FRM people, they have never paid any this common property tax?
no, they do.
Yeah, they
They,
do.
they pay common property and they also pay the special assessment. They don't pay into the restricted fund. So you know how, your O1 account?
Right,
They don't pay the extra $4.
well, they should.
Well, and that may be, that, I mean, that,
I'm sorry, you know, if they're, like he said, if they're using all this property and everything, they're having a ball. Yeah, but anyhow, that's my opinion.
It was initially called an impound fund, it was for
Right.
property owners, because it was for adding
future
additional
development, for
unit
subdivisions.
subdivisions, which are property owner items.
Okay,
and not FRM. So that was the reason, and it was a change to the restricted fund so that we could actually use that money for capital improvements.
right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Linda?
We're going to have a town hall, can we talk about bylaws?
It's gonna be a workshop for decoration only. And then we can have one for bylaws, but we still, for both of them, we're gonna have to limit it to what we have here plus online people.
Well, I mean, we can look at that form, and then I guess we can say yea or nay, because I think what this workshop is gonna get the ballot prepared for what we're gonna be voting on. Is that, I think that's the
That was,
purpose.
yeah, and if you, I mean, the timing is obviously an issue at this point, so if you're going to have something along those lines, can we roll it into both?
What do you think, directors? Usually workshops are basically single item discussions.
Yeah, I would not wanna do them both in the same workshop. That will,
Confuse people?
it will be confusing, and there will be people that would like to attend in person one that may not be interested in the other.
Okay, so if you could consider the scheduling two, that would be great. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Okay, you made a motion. Would you like to? Oh, yeah,
Anybody
I
else?
thought there's three, duh. Third? Okay, no more comments from the members? Would you like to repeat your motion?
Yes, I move to table this until we have held a workshop on it.
And you, Bill, you seconded?
Yes, I did.
Okay, all in favor? Bill? Oh. Okay, unanimous. We will set up workshop. Julie, would you make a note? Okay, we move on to the RV golf cart, RV park golf cart. Alan?
Okay, does anybody understands when they go to the RV park, Kurt Squirrel golf cart's been sitting out there since I came to work and hadn't started. So he needs a new golf cart. The RV Breakfast Club committee, Rick Schneider and John Bridger, called me and they have donated out of their proceeds from their breakfast fund, $3,750 towards the purchase of a golf cart. That golf cart has been picked out from Mission Golf Cars and total price is $6,116.13, which leaves $2,366.13 for us to help the purchase of the golf cart for the RV park.
What was the, without me having to do the math, what was the total remaining for?
$2,366.13.
When we had the, I guess it's a limo style, the purple one, is that the one you're referring to?
No, just regular golf cart.
No, that was the one that's the one we're replacing, correct?
No,
Whatever
just a
happened,
regular
what happened to that
utility.
one?
It was on loan,
No.
wasn't it?
Uh-uh.
Well, it's not that.
I haven't seen it since I've been here, so
Well, it was part of, the RV park always typically had a golf cart, and then with that, Domingo was going on a maintenance and let the directors of operations, making sure that once a month bringing in a report that the water's filled up, the batteries, all that kind of stuff. Is this something that the RV park is gonna take care of maintenance, or is this something?
yeah, they took care of the last one. They've always, the one they had out there, they've always been taking care of it.
This is basically a work golf cart, not a
Do you remember the
touring
one?
golf cart.
No.
I know the one you told me had a six-seater.
Do not remember a purple golf cart.
I have seen pictures of it.
It was.
I remember
It's a
it.
six-seater, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
that's right.
And I think, wasn't it when Shirley was here?
That's right,
Was that
she used
the
to
show?
drive it
But I
around.
mean, she had one out there for driving people around or lending to people at the.
But I have not seen a carcass of one anywhere.
And that's what it would be, a carcass.
Yes.
Wonder what happened.
But this is a work golf cart, not a
Yeah.
loaner to the membership there.
Dustin?
I'm fine with it, as
Rhiannon?
long as it's in the budget.
We've got the budget for it?
He's making us $18,000 a year.
I guess so.
Yeah,
Yes, and a special thanks,
a month, excuse me.
a special thanks goes out to all the volunteers there at the RV park because they have provided us with services that the FCSA couldn't have provided on their own. So good thank them for all the hard work they do out there. Okay, members, comment? Okay, do we have a motion to approve a payment of $2,366.13 toward the purchase of a golf cart for the RV park?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All right, we have moved and seconded, all those approve? Okay, unanimous, less absentee director.
I think we did it without a vote.
Okay. Okay, we have some announcements before we adjourn to executive session. Thanksgiving hours have been posted around, and they're on the dispatch. The offices will be closed on Thanksgiving on November 26th, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 27th, 28th, and 29th. The admin offices will be closed. The motel will be open from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The RV park will be open from 8 to 5, and the golf course will be open from 7 to 6. And happy Thanksgiving to all next week. Okay, we're going to adjourn to executive session. We have member and employee issues to discuss. Directors, anything else to add before we adjourn?
Amen.
All right, so 11:01, we're adjourned to executive session.
All right.
Wait till you're sitting.
That, I already know.
I know I found it on.
Yeah, I saw it.
Did everybody get cold?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. Yes, they are. And there's only particular
Fine. She's doing great.
I like to walk out.
Actually, she comes in next week and then I'll be back to see her.